Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this wonderful evening where we are going to play some fantastic Danish music for you. My name is Peter Ettrup Larsen, and as you might have guessed, I'm the conductor tonight. And usually the conductor does not talk to the audience, but tonight you're going to experience a few changes because this is a Danish program, so we do it the Danish way. And quite frankly, I have to talk to you because we cannot play the first piece. At least not without your help, because this is actually a song. And if you open your program, you will find the text right here in the program. So I kindly ask you to join us for the first song. It's called In Denmark I Was Born. It's one of the most beloved Danish national songs. It's not the national anthem, but it could have been, because the text is written by Hans Christian Andersen, the very famous storyteller. But Paul Scheerbeck, the composer, wrote the melody for this song. And then he also wrote an overture for string orchestra. So what we will do first is we will play part of the overture, then comes a passage in the middle of the overture where you will sing. I will turn around, and that's when you will have to sing. And as you see, we put the title in English, In Denmark I Was Born, but in Danish it's called I Danmark jeg født. And I trust you, so we printed the text only in Danish. And the reason why is that last year, in June last year, I had the privilege of conducting the Danish National Opera by Carl Nielsen Masquerade at the Cairo Opera House. And we did everything in Danish. So the Cairo Opera Chorus, the soloists, everybody was singing in Danish. And when we had our first rehearsal, and they had sung in Danish for the first time, and the final chorus was over, all eyes turned to me. They all looked at me. Was it good enough? And all I did was I showed them my arm, and all the little hairs were standing. So I have high expectations. So, as we say in Danish, pøj pøj and welcome. Now we need to get some wind players and a timpanist on stage. So while we wait for them, let me introduce the next piece. Because when I was asked to come and do a Danish program here, we quickly decided we wanted to do music from the Danish Golden Age, which was like 200 years ago. And then I thought, but it's pretty golden in Denmark still, so why not play something contemporary as well? And that was why I contacted a young Danish composer, Andre Jensen, and asked if he would be interested in writing a new piece for this concert for you here tonight. So you are in for a treat, because we're going to do a world's first performance of this piece. Nobody except we in the orchestra have heard this piece before. Now, when the concert started a minute ago, I started talking, and it's not normal that the conductor talks, but it's even less normal that the composer talks, because usually composers are quite busy being dead. But fortunately, that's not the case with Andre Jensen. So, Andre, could you please join us here on stage? Now, Andre will introduce his own piece.
And Peter, thank you for giving me this opportunity to write for this wonderful orchestra we have in Alexandria. And you know, when Peter called me and said, I need a new piece from you, Andre. And I said, okay, who is playing this piece? An orchestra in Egypt. So I was like, okay, I have to find inspiration to an orchestra in Egypt. And I've never been in Egypt. And you know, like the song you just sung is like inspiration from Denmark. That's how the lyrics became. And so I was like, okay, how should I find inspiration for piece for Egypt orchestra? So okay, I know one thing about Egypt, and that's the pyramids. So okay, I know them, but I've never been there. So that would be like we call it kind of false statement to write a piece about the pyramids. I've never been there, I never touched them. But I have this opportunity to go to Egypt. I was thinking, how can I connect my present in Denmark to Egypt? And then I looked at the stars. You know, the pyramids is like one big, and one small just off. And that reminded me of the constellation in the Orient Belt, the three stars. One big, and one little off, a little smaller. And the small star was like the way I knew this constellation that they call the Orient Belt. And that small star is called Mintaka. And that is my inspiration for this piece, because I have seen this Mintaka since I was a little child. So, okay, Mintaka, stars, Egypt. So this is my connection to Egypt, is those three stars. And the small one is my favorite one. So I was like, okay, how should I write this piece? Should it be like star, or like universe, or should I do something else? And I can tell you now, I'm so excited to be in Egypt. And so this piece is about my excitement to be in Egypt. So this piece is a bit fast, a bit joyful, and fun to play. I suppose. So enjoy for this new piece for this wonderful orchestra, and good luck.
Everybody, my name is Anne-Sophie Ellermann, and I'm the author of this book about the Danish composer Carl Nielsen. And it's illustrated by Lea Letzin, and it was published last year with fonts from the Carl Nielsen and Anne-Marie Carl Nielsen legated. And now it's been translated into Arabic by the initiation of the Danish Institute in Damascus and Ingolf Thusen. And I'm here now today to read pieces from the book with this wonderful orchestra. Carl has measles and must stay in bed. It's boring being ill, so Mom takes the violin down from its place on the wall and lets him play with it. When Mom has finished cooking and cleaning the dishes, she sits down by the bed with her sewing. She sings a song and asks Carl, "Can you find the tune on the violin?" Carl can. A few days later, Carl plays a couple of short tunes for Dad. Even though Carl plays well, Dad doesn't say a thing. He just takes the violin, tunes the strings, and hands it back to Carl. Carl is allowed to join his father's band. They are folk musicians who play at parties. One night after playing at a party, the band members walk home in the dark. One of them speaks with enthusiasm about the music, about the tone of the space and among the party guests. Carl thinks for a long time about how you can give others something without even understanding how valuable it is. Later in the day, Carl has work to do. He has to look after the geese. He lies down in the grass behind a sloe bush. He sings to himself and daydreams. The geese begin to honk, they thrust their wings and run. They have seen a flock of wild geese and wants to join them on their long voyage to the north. But Carl's geese cannot fly, their wings are clipped. Carl looks at the large birds in the blue sky. His thoughts fly upwards and far out into the world. For a moment he feels as if he understands everything. One day, Dad says there's a vacancy for a military musician in the city of Odense. He tells Carl to practice hard on the trumpet, so when Carl attends the audition, he is the best and he gets the job, even though he's younger than all the other applicants. In a pub in Odense, Carl meets an old man who scrapes a living playing piano. He tells Carl about the music of Bach, but it is not for children. You must wait until you get older to play it, he says. But Carl cannot wait. The music of Bach is difficult and different from all other music Carl has experienced, but he continues playing it. Now and then there are tones that lights a spark in Carl. It's a spark that gradually becomes a flaming fire. Carl's friends think he's very talented. They encourage him to try to make a real career in music. First he speaks with his mother. She turns very serious and says, "You must do the very best you can in everything you do." And she compares him with Hans Christian Andersen. He also came from poverty like you do. Finally she says, "I think you can do it." Carl passes the entrance exam to the Music Conservatory in Copenhagen just before Christmas. He is 18 years old. After New Year, he says goodbye to his family and moves to the big city. And so ends Carl's childhood. Ja, jeg går ned.
The final piece we are going to play for you tonight is a symphony by the very, very famous Danish composer Christoph Ernst Friedrich Weisse. You may wonder why it sounded so German, but he was actually born just outside of Hamburg in northern Germany. But then at the ripe age of 15, he moved to Denmark. And he actually established himself as one of the most famous Danish composers nobody has ever heard about. And I want to prove my point, because I'm absolutely convinced we have quite a few Danes here today. And I'm going to mention some of the songs that he has written. And if you know the song, please raise your arm. Altid frejdig, når du går. Det så yndigt at følges ad. Julen har bragt velsignet bud. Den signede dag med fryd vi ser. I østen stiger solen op. Velkommen igen, Guds englesmå, and I could go on. Now, honestly, did you know that these songs were written by Weisse? We have a winner. That is a problem with Weisse, that nobody really knows what he did because he was so good at it, he didn't need to advertise. As a young composer, of course, he wanted to do symphonies because that's what you do as a young composer, especially back in the golden age. So at the ripe age of 21, he wrote his first symphony, the symphony we are going to perform for you tonight. And within the following 5 years, he wrote 7 symphonies and then never another symphony. Because he found that the format of the symphony was too restricted. He was like the square peg that had to go into a round hole, and he couldn't do that. You know, there is a tradition that the first movement in a symphony is fast. Then comes a slow movement, a minuetto, which is a dance, and then a fast movement. But Weisse couldn't deal with that. So what he did in his first symphony, he swapped the 2 middle movements. That was very rebellious in those days. And I can tell you, the other day when we started rehearsing, the concertmaster came up to me and said, "What is he doing? The movements are in the wrong order." And yes, they are. But he was 21, and he was Danish. So we are going to play the entire symphony for you. And back in the days when he wrote them, people would usually applaud between the movements if they liked the music. But since we are all now very educated and highly advanced, I recommend that you wait until the end of the symphony. Then you can go all berserk. Enjoy.